want to hear the rest of that song every time.
I wonder if I should Shazam it someday.
There you go.
So, we are here to discuss the earnings announcement and earnings call that Disney just did for basically the fourth quarter. But since it's the fourth quarter, it also includes results for the entire fiscal year, which ran this year or last year from September 29th, 2019 through October 3rd. So they had an extra week in there, just the way the calendar goes. Every once in a while, you got to throw in a 53rd week. And I don't know if you joined us earlier where we kind of predicted what they would talk about. And we kind of predicted two things. One, they would say a lot of wait till December 10th, which we got plenty of. I don't know if you've heard, Kyle, they're going to do an investor day on December 10th and talk about the investment in Disney Plus.
I mean, it was a passing rumor.
And that we would get a WandaVision release date because at last we heard, not that long ago, was coming by the end of the year. So they actually kind of
way to say that it was happening in 2020 still.
Right. And I'm not talking like March. I'm talking like they said this in August. So anyway, they kind of earlier, I don't know, maybe 10, 11 o'clock, announced that it was WandaVision's coming January 15th, 2021, which probably makes a little bit more sense because if they did it at the end of this year, it would go for like Mandalorian and WandaVision would overlap, which I'm sure they'll have Marvel and Star Wars overlap at some point. But with the lack of content at this stage, it's probably better to kind of let one go and then.
I guess you could also look at a calendar before you make a big deal about it being released in 2020.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I don't know why they felt the need. I don't know. Well, it's like, what do they gain? Like, they could always say, "Oh, guess what? We're adding it in December 15th," instead of like going out of your way to saying it's coming in by the end of the year.
Yeah,
I thought that was odd. But in any case, Disney lost less money than people expected, losing about 20 cents a share. While they made $1.07 last year, but that pre-COVID, obviously
the entire fiscal year, 20 cents per share.
Yes. No, that was I'm sorry, that was for the quarter. They lost 20 cents a share. For the year, they lost $1.57 compared to making $6.26. So I think we should just go through some of the highlights or lowlights in the COVID world, wherever it may be. One is, just to get out of the way, the dividend. They didn't do a dividend in the middle of this year like they normally do. They also announced they're not going to do one in January because they're still kind of uncertain of where things are. Kind of makes sense if you're losing money. You don't want to have money go. You don't want to borrow money to give it to shareholders. Not that companies don't do that, but I can understand why you're investing in Disney Plus. You want to have as much.
Ones with longer dividend history, it's probably in their interest to do that. Whereas for Disney, it's never been a big part of their selling point for their stock. So,
yeah, it used to be that they were like at a 1% yield forever, and they actually started like upping that. And it was like, wow, it's not. I don't want to say it was a great dividend, but it was becoming like a legitimate dividend. But then, with COVID, and now that it's sort of a tech stock, and we'll talk a little bit about that. It's understandable that. They're looking at they're in an investing phase, not in a return value to shareholder phase, or at least, through hard cash. A couple things: Walt Disney World, Hong Kong Disneyland, and Shanghai Disneyland are all operating at a profit. The parks business is running at a loss because of the closure of Disneyland and the cruise line and Disneyland Paris, presumably, because that was not operating at a profit, even though it was open that quarter. And you kind of got the sense that Disneyland Paris was quieter than the other parks.
Yeah, they not only are they closed again now because of order, but they have a planned closure coming up in January into February. So, yeah, probably lack of demand there.
So the parks segment did lose money, but having the parks opened offset some of that. So, in the quarter, the parks lost about $1 billion, just over $1 billion, compared to if you look at last year, they made about around 1.4 billion. So now, one number I always look at is capital expenditures at parks, because that's, building on new rides and stuff. I mean, it's also like new roofs and not sexy stuff, but for the most part, people want to know, are they investing in the parks? And this year, I will find that in domestic parks, because they break out domestic, international, they invested 2.1 billion, and in the last year, the fiscal 2019, they invested 3.3 billion.
Does that include Galaxy's Edge last year? I'm losing track of time already.
Yeah, that would have included Galaxy's Edge, but not necessarily Rise of the Resistance. But I imagine most of the capital cost is not necessarily on the ride at that point. It's more, on the land, and the fine tuning is not that expensive. It's more just time.
Yeah.
Now, Bob Chapek was pretty firm that he does not, he believes California should follow science, and allow Disneyland to reopen. Kind of an odd time now, with cases going up, to advocate for increased reopenings. I'm not making a judgment one way or the other, but with Orange County sort of going into higher tiers, it's a little bit of a harder case than it was a couple weeks ago.
It's a moot point at best.
Yeah, and so they said that they expected it to be closed through the end of their first fiscal quarter. Now, we talked a little bit about it earlier. Disney's first fiscal quarter, basically runs October, November, December. So when he says that, it does not mean Disneyland is expected to be closed at least until March. It might be, but that's not what he said. He's just saying they don't expect it to open before January. And I think, the resort cancellations are pretty in line with that. They might, they're doing things like opening Buena Vista Street, Downtown Disney's obviously up and running. The Grand Californian for Vacation Club members is reopening in December. So not saying that the business is completely dead, but they do not anticipate reopening Disneyland soon.
Yeah. I'm just going to clear this up real quick. You're right. They haven't gone up to a higher tier yet, but they are at risk of doing so.
Right.
Warnings from Orange County and things that the numbers are trending in the wrong direction is what we mean.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the numbers are going up, not going down. And presumably, the colors don't really matter. And originally, Disney was advocating to be allowed to open at the orange tier. Well, Orange County is still at the red tier and going towards purple. So, not saying they're there. It's complicated, but if you're waiting for them to get into orange to reopen, even at Disney's standards, then we're still going to be waiting. Disney World, though, is operating now at 35% capacity. Bob Chapek said that originally it was 25%, but they found ways to be more efficient, so they're now running at 35%.
Structural engineering,
right?
He explained it as figuring out how they could operate, how many people they could have in the park and still keep 6 feet of distance.
Yeah, so I think it's like making more queue space is what that means, right? Using the Little Mermaid queue for Slinky Dog Dash is kind of the plan there.
Well, we've also seen them increase capacity on different rides individually by putting up additional plexiglass stuff, and so that also helps ease congestion in the rest of the park.
Yeah, particularly at rides like Rise of Resistance, where the capacity of the park is sort of dependent on the key attractions. Like Hollywood Studios is, where you don't. Everyone there wants to go on Rise of Resistance. You don't want to have 80% of your guests not be able to go on your main attraction. So that's a huge game changer, is by being able to get more guests on Rise of the Resistance. That's some of the park stuff.
Well, also, one more thing about the parks I thought was interesting is that for the rest of the calendar year, so the Q1 fiscal quarter, is Disney World is at 77% booked, and they're nearly fully booked for Thanksgiving. So people are definitely coming back out. I know that was a concern that they mentioned during the last quarter, was that there was a lot of demand at first, but then cases started to go up and people got sick. It seems a lot of people are heading to Walt Disney World again.
Absolutely. I think there's the requirements. There's, whether it's allowed to operate or whether you're allowed to go, those kinds of questions. And then are people comfortable going? And it seems like Well, I'm sure there's guests that are not going, and aren't comfortable yet. Many guests are comfortable. That kind of fits the lower capacity number. We do have a question here about the park, so answer it. Do you think Fast Pass, increased hours, increased dining opportunities will open back up? Increased capacity is creating long waits with no mitigating assistance. So I think they're trying to be careful because obviously at the lower rates, at the lower capacities, they don't want to overextend themselves. I think going into the holidays, they are optimistic, but I don't think they want to engage more, like bringing back new, some of the shows, facilitating additional restaurants, or particularly infrastructure projects like Fast Pass, where you got to have technology teams involved until they're very confident that the numbers are going to be sustained. Not so much on the regulatory side at Disney World, but on the confidence side, because it's one thing to get people to come during Thanksgiving, but if the numbers keep trending up, come January, we could see a major fall down. And we don't know the timing of the vaccine. We don't know when it will be available, but we also don't know when it'll be available to many people. Anthony Fauci was on Good Morning America today, seemed to be optimistic, but I think they want to, right now Disney World is minorly accretive to earnings, which means they basically keep it open so that they can pay their people to work. They'd rather have it open and make a little bit of money, but pay their people, keep everything going. Whereas, some of the, if they really start to expand themselves, they might not be accretive to earnings, which is a major goal for them.
December 10th.
Yeah. So, just, last time we got if I'm not mistaken, last time we got a Disney Plus subscriber number was around 60 million. Mm-hmm. October 3rd, 2020, the end of the quarter, it was 73.7 million, which I thought is really impressive because I kind of figured, between when, there was not a lot of high profile content coming. We can talk about Mulan in a little bit, but, there wasn't a Mandalorian, there wasn't a WandaVision. And, I kind of figured if you got to get it for COVID, you would have had it by now, And so, I think that number is really impressive that they're continuing to grow. Now, obviously, some of that is new territories. It becomes available in new countries, so then people subscribe. But I think that number just blew expectations out the water. Hence, why Disney stock is up, significantly, about just over 3% in after-hours trading. Justin brings up a point. Hamilton got a lot of subscribers. So Hamilton would have come online if you waited exactly for Hamilton to debut. You would have subscribed during this
fourth quarter.
But I also would like, these numbers are at the end of October. So if you signed up just for Hamilton and you were done, you're sort of a one and done, which I think was a concern for a lot of people, they were able to keep a lot of those people, which is good. For long-term growth. Obviously, Bob Chapek is very bullish on not only Disney Plus, but Hulu. He always talks about Hulu Fly TV as like his little favorite little toy he gets to play with. But anytime they would ask about investment, what we're going to see there, they would always say, December 10th. Obviously, we'll be back with a live blog and a post show after that as well. We will have access to sort of the with content stream. They'll have a publicly available stream, which you're more than welcome to watch, which will sort of black out the content, but we'll be able to see some of the clips and things they show. So we'll report on that. But in terms of the investment, we don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what their plans are, but we did get some clues. One, they're going to put a lot of money into it. Number two, ESPN Plus is going to get a lot of money into it. Premier Access was not a one and done. We're going to get more information about what Premier Access will be moving forward. And forever we've always heard, oh no, we're going to preserve the legacy business. We're just going to add this on. There'll still be the big films, and you'll go to Disney Plus. I think COVID accelerated that. Just I think we're going to see this be a direct-to-consumer company that also has merchandise in parks, and theatrical, is almost a novelty at that point. Not saying that they won't release movies, particularly big theatrical movies, almost as a way to promote it coming to Disney Plus. But it's in many ways, if you look at animation in the 90s, the animation business was because they ran out of stuff to put out on home video. So they wanted to create more animated movies. They ended up being box office smashers, but that was the original idea, was we need more stuff for home video. In many ways, I think theatrical will still exist as a way to promote Disney Plus. In the CAPA, the California Association of Parks and Attractions press call a month ago, the California theme parks didn't discount a legal case for Disneyland and other California theme park openings. After today, do you still think that's on the table? I do not think it's on the table at this moment. I think because the parks, not just Disneyland, but sort of amusement parks, the brands are so valuable. I think they want to wait until the cases are starting to go down again. I think it's sort of a moot point while it's continuing to increase. I think they will say, this is not the right time to do it. If you start to see it down, where we were a month ago, then you might see legal action. But I don't think they're going to do it now. I think the timing of it's just weird. And the Christmas season's lost. They're not going to get it resolved by then. And with the hope of a vaccine, I think they kind of hope that it will, the cases will come down, a vaccine will become available, and the timing will kind of figure it out. So legal action won't be necessary. Not off the table if, things don't go the way we expect, which has happened throughout the year. But I don't think now is a time where they're going to take legal action.
Do you have any insight into what Damaro is supposed to talk about next week?
Damaro's going to talk about, how they pivoted to parks. I think he will make a PR case for reopening. I think he'll talk about all the measures they've done. This isn't like last time we covered a Damaro presentation. For those that you don't know, we'll be covering 6:00 a.m. Pacific time on Monday, a presentation from Josh Damaro at IAAPA. So, this is more of a Josh Damaro. Well, previously, every year for a while, the chairman of parks did a presentation at IAAPA. So I don't think it's as much as, we want to make a pitch as much as we're filling our slot and we're going to talk about it. I don't think there's going to be a huge game changing in terms of their tone. I could be totally wrong, but if I'm reading the tea leaves, this is more of, hey, this is an industry conference. So it's like, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're showing we're safe. Here's how we're successful. I don't think it's put pressure on California because it wouldn't be it's not really the right place for that. So trying to see what else was interesting in the call.
What did you think of the things we've talked about so far? Which was the stat or piece of information you thought was the most intriguing, something you either definitely expected or kind of took you by surprise?
The numbers, the Disney Plus subscribers and even the ESPN Plus subscribers, that number took me by surprise. I kind of felt that there would be a leveling off until Mandalorian came back, but I'm happily surprised with that. And then I see, it appears based on subscriber growth at ESPN Plus and Hulu that a lot of people are taking advantage of the Disney bundle. And to a point where I'm starting to question whether it needs to not be a bundle, just, that just will be the default position. In fact, I went to Disney Plus today just to kind of see if what the website looked like on its anniversary. And it basically says, sign up here for the Disney bundle. And then on a little thing on, if you would just like to subscribe for Disney Plus, click here. So I think, at least domestically. Now, obviously, internationally, it's going to be every country is going to be a little different based on their market conditions. But For Juby says, for us latecomers, can you restate the Disney Plus numbers and give context? So yes,
very latecomers because that was like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that was, and but yeah, so Disney Plus subscribers at the end October 3rd, there were 73.7 million, up from 60 million about 2 months ago. ESPN Plus is at 10.3 million, and Hulu, if you combine just the SVOD plus the live subscribers, it's about 36 million. So
what were they saying about Hotstar plus Disney Plus? Like something about 25%. Were they saying it makes up 25% of their subscribers or subscriber growth?
Of their subscriber growth.
Okay, that's still a lot, but that's because that product is comparatively to US dollars is very inexpensive.
Right. So what they look at is ARPU, right? It's like revenue per user. So, if you have sort of like the modern world where it's about $6 a month or whatever, whatever plan you're on. And then you have India where it's, a lot cheaper. So it's not really apples to apples if you kind of bundle it all together. But that being said, even with everything, the revenue per user for each Disney Plus subscription was $4.52. So that includes people that are on, on like Verizon and stuff. So basically, India and Indonesia are at a much lower level. Also, it's also a much it's a very populous country as well. Not that the United States isn't, but that those numbers could quickly sway one way or the other, because in India they have the cricket rights, which is our big driver for that product.
I think the biggest surprise for me was the hint that, or not even hint, he basically said that there is definitely a future for Premier Access. I think there was a lot of questions about, well, if they're not doing it for Seoul, then it must not have done very well. And because of the controversy surrounding Mulan, is it more about the $30 or is it about the Uyghurs? And so I guess we kind of have an answer to that, in that it actually did perform well enough. And they just think that the product was not wrong, but just that had an effect on the overall impact of Premier Access itself. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. I'm a little trepidatious, I would say, about the whole thing. But
well, and to me, we don't know what they're moving from theatrical to Disney Plus at this point. So I could see, I think when they announced Soul was sort of free to Disney Plus subscribers, or however you want to describe that. People are like, oh, maybe Premier Access wasn't successful. Especially, they never came out with like amazing Disney Plus, Premier Access numbers, like they, that they would flaunt it the way they did. Even when Christy McCarthy talked it, in the middle of September, like they weren't all like, yay, it's what a hit. So, but I think it makes me question whether big movies, whether it's Free Guy or, Black Widow, they're going to do that. They're going to give that Premier Access instead of go theatrical. We always kind of presumed that, for Marvel, it was going to be, these Disney Plus shows and then, the big movies in the theater. I don't know that we can take that as a given anymore.
Do you think once theaters are reopening, obviously we're going to get these answers on December 10th, but do you think they would still have some sort of a window? Like I would think 2 weeks in theaters exclusively before Premier Access, and then like continue just adding an extra window basically?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's not unlikely, particularly because it's money on the table and these big event movies. I mean, there's something to be said about seeing. I mean, I saw Mulan in a theater just to, at the shareholder meeting, and it's better that way than it was watching it on Disney Plus on my TV. I mean, and I don't have a terrible TV, but it's not, Dolby surround sound and all that. But so I could see that happening. I just don't, at this point, I hate to speculate because Bob Chapek made it very clear that, it's going to be big, and I'm giving up on guessing at this point because he is so adamant that it's going to be a game changer that it's almost like I'm worried about being too conservative with my gut. The other thing I thought was interesting, and I wonder if this is going to actually come into play on December 10th, is he recognized ABC News specifically. Now, obviously, there was the election. There's a lot going on with COVID. But I'm curious to see if they will do more investment in their ABC News Live product, which is their digital streaming service. Paramount Plus is making their CBS News All Access, or whatever they call it.
CBS All Access is becoming Paramount Plus.
No, but there's a CBS News 24 channel.
Right. Yeah.
And, they're making that a big part of Paramount Plus. So I'm curious to see if ABC News Live will somehow find a way to be integrated into, I shouldn't say integrated because it already is, but see more investment there. It's already available on Hulu. So even if you don't have Hulu Live TV, you get ABC News Live, which is actually, to me, I think it's a great product because it doesn't have the sort of partisan talk. It's just more straight sort of just news like the old days. It's definitely not a cable news type offering. But the fact that he called it out made me wonder, it's very successful in terms of streaming news. It's not been talked a lot about on a corporate level. And I wonder if there'll be more of that coming on December 10th. Doobie wants to know about if they mentioned Kareem Daniel specifically. They did not. They did talk about the new business. And typically they don't talk specifically about specific executives in these things. I don't think there's a reason, just not really what they do. They did talk about the business and basically how it's their, Kareem Daniel is going to basically set budgets based on profit and loss expectations. And then the creative groups will make the product. It does seem like the creative groups will have green light authority. So, they get to decide what they get to do with the little bucket of money. And I'm sure there'll be, I would hesitate to say like this is going to suddenly cheap out movies or the shows, because if Kevin Feige goes to Bob Chapek and says I need an extra $100 million, he's going to get his $100 million. But it's more, I think more on the television side and sort of the traditional broad, non-tentpole stuff. Well, would there always have been budgets? We'll still be living within those budgets. But kind of said, this allows the creative people to focus on making stuff and not programming network schedules and advertising and all that. On my Sunday Saga, on the flip side, I hope that this means we could post-COVID see limited theatrical release of Disney Plus content like Mandalorian and Noel. Yeah, I think that would be great. And whether it's done through traditional means or even like a Fathom event, because Kareem Daniel now has oversight of the El Capitan Theater. So at least, that should be used as a promotional device for Disney Plus. I think it would be great to give people the option to see it in the theater, either before or as like an opening, 9:00 screening for midnight release or whatever they feel is appropriate, to at least get some access for their big theatrical content. Like if you told me I could go every Thursday at 8:00 to go see the next Mandalorian episode at a theater, forget COVID, like in a normal course, I would totally do that and pay, above my Disney Plus subscription.
Yeah, and that's not unheard of. There's theaters that I know of green like Game of Thrones or Walking Dead, things like that. So
yeah, and I think like every year they do the Doctor Who season premiere theatrically. I mean, I'm not a fan, so I'm not sure, but
I don't know about that. I know that they did do one special, the Day of the Doctor.
Yeah, I think that I feel like they've done more because every time I go to the movie theater, I see people dressed up in weird costumes. Just checking the news to see if there's any breaking news as we kind of come on, because the whole investment community is digesting news. Disney's still up in after hours, not at the highs it was. I think once they talked about the dividend, it kind of gave clarity as to what their numbers meant. It did lower a little bit, but still up 3%, up $4 to about 140, which is if you think of their 52-week, their year-long low was $79, and their high
I realized it got that low.
What's that?
I said I didn't realize it got that low. I knew it was in the 90s. I didn't know when.
Yeah, that was March 18th. Their high was just about a year ago at 153.41. Basically,
is that a closing day high or just an intraday high?
That could have been an intraday high. That was not. It's not necessarily a close.
Or low, rather.
Yeah, it could have been an intraday low. I think the high came from when they announced they've already reached, a certain subscriber growth just in the first week of Disney Plus. DB asks the dumbest question. He gets the dumb analyst question of the day. Do you expect any more news from Disney this year? December 10th. He missed the drinking game where he said, like, if every time Bob Chapek said December 10th, you took a drink, you'd be dead. It's I think we kind of came in, if you watched our previous show, we knew coming into this that a lot of this was going to be like, stay tuned for December 10th, which it was. And that's going to be a big day. I don't know if you guys remember, about, I guess, April 2019 when they did their, announced the price and the, sort of initial plan for Disney Plus. And, it happened to be on the eve of Star Wars Celebration. It's going to be like that again. 1:30 Pacific time. Join us. We'll be blogging along, talking about all those content that they show us, and then we'll be back after that's over. We don't know the time because we don't know how long it's going to take, but we'll be back after that's over and analyze the heck out of it because there's going to be a lot to talk about. Not only Disney Plus, which I know is what people are most interested in, but I expect big changes at Hulu and ESPN Plus as well as Star, which is their sort of international Hulu.
General entertainment.
Yeah. It's weird because they changed the name from Walt Disney Television to Disney General Entertainment, which sounds very bland, but they don't make television anymore. They make whatever. And Doobie says Congolution. So, wow, that was 30 minutes. That blew by real fast.
Can you give us any updated guidance on Disney Plus?
In December 10th. Like I want to know why these, like, do they feel like
they come in with just 2 questions each and then they just don't bother to update them? Like they wrote them a month ago.
Right, yeah, it's like as soon as he starts talking, and including one of our friends, I was like, December 10th. All this is going to be is December 10th.
Well, I also wonder why Christine McCarthy always introduces herself when she answers questions. I'm like, we know, but
hey guys, can I ask a quick question? Sorry, this is Doobie just poking my head in here. I did miss the beginning of this. Can you talk a little bit again, I'm sure, about the 25%, 35%? Because I could have sworn they said they were going to stay at 25% until
that was for the foreseeable future, and then he couldn't foresee 2 weeks from then.
Right. Yeah, he did say 25%. I forget where that was. That was on, I'm guessing, CNBC, but I don't know why he was on CNBC. It was an interview he did with Julia Borstein with CNBC. But he acknowledged that they found ways to run more, change processes around to allow up to 35% within the CDC guidelines. So still 6 feet apart. And I think we've seen that, as Jeremiah does his park walks, is there's more queue space now. Like, one example is they're using the Little Mermaid queue for Dash, which I don't think was originally intended. So I think they took they were conservative with what they could operate within. And then once they saw it and got used to it, they realized, no, we can do more. Just like
good. I mean, I'm happy to see it. I was surprised since they actually made a statement before. And then one other thing.
1 month ago today, it was on October 12th on CNBC that he said that. And said that they would be, parks will stay at 25% capacity until CDC guidelines change. So
he was wrong a month ago. And I also don't know if he didn't know. Like, did it change before then? And like he just didn't get the update. I think he has a big company run. He's got a lot going on. It's entirely possible they upped it and it just didn't get downloaded to him.
But he's still training too. He's only had the job.
They also around the same time they said that WandaVision was going to be by the end of this year. So
the other thing that I wanted to ask about was the Disney bubble for the cruise. I mean, what exactly did he say there?
He basically said that each cruise would be a Disney bubble. So
he was just using NBA verbiage because that's such a phrase he is kind of just appropriating it.
But basically what that means is everyone will be tested before they get on the ship. There's probably no port adventures. It's probably just
that's what I would really think. That basically mean no port other than Castaway Cay.
Yeah, if that. But yeah, a lot of cruising to nowhere would be how I envision it, because you're basically testing everybody as they get on. Everyone's safe, and then you don't let anyone into that seal. Now, unfortunately, today they had the first cruise operate, not Disney, and they had a CDC, they had a Corona scare. So, it's not going to be imminent that these cruises are going to start up again. Now, he did say regarding the cruise line, because I know you're passionate about it, the Wish and the other 2 ships that are being built are basically on a 6-month delay. But because they're seeing pent-up demand, they think that by the time those ships come online, so with the Wish coming in the summer of 2022 now, that they'll be able to fill them, and there won't be any worries of having additional cruise ship capacity. They're very bullish on cruising coming back without there being any scare, because the end of 2021 calendar year is seeing strong bookings.
Cool. And I did see that Royal Caribbean is taking names for healthy volunteers to do test cruises with CDC guidelines. So if Disney does anything similar, I will pretend to be healthy and sign up. Just giving warning now.
Yeah, well, and I think, I don't know that Disney, just like they weren't with Walt Disney World, I don't know that Disney's going to be the first out of the gate here. I think they're going to want to be, especially with, I think like what's the cruise line for old people is like Princess. Like they might be the last to come back, but Disney, just with their brand proposition, they don't want to be on the news with a trip full of other people. It's just not what it's not their business. It's a small Disney, so you don't want to screw up the rest of Disney's brand because you're so eager to get the cruise ship back up and running.
Royal Caribbean has nothing else to do, so they better figure out how to do this.
Exactly.
Disney has the luxury of scale.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your only thing you do, you're going to be more proactive than if it's a side gig.
Diversification.
All right, man. I hate to say this since our numbers are as high as they've been, but I got no more questions. So.
Well, Mickey's spirit animal does say hello, so hi. Mickey's my spirit animal. So I guess we should just say, December 10th. Stay with us. Once the bell happens, 1:00, 1:30, the show will start. The show, and it's going to be a lot. If you want to if you're looking to find a day to take off to follow Disney business news, that's the day. And then just to showcase other things we're doing. Yes, Stevie.
Sorry, one more. The actual number, the earnings number, they lost, what was it, 20 cents as opposed to 77 cents that was expected? That seems like an incredibly good number. So, yes, but a lot of that comes from cost cutting that I think Wall Street underestimated what that was. Also, average sports rights kind of got confusing because the way the NBA had their delay. So when they aired them and when they paid for them got a little out of whack. And then obviously Disney Plus is doing very well. So and the parks are profitable, they said. But some of the ones that are open are actually profitable.
The ones that are currently open.
And I want to be clear. When I say profitable, I don't mean like, yay, they're not. I would say they are slightly
not losing money.
They're not losing money. And they're basically, as Bob Chapek says, they're basically running to keep their cast employed. And so
I expect Disney to keep their cast employed. I'm glad they are. And the fact that they're able to do that and even eke out a little bit is an impressive thing, I think.
Yeah, because you look at the number of what they lost in the parks business, which is obviously coming from the closed parks. So it's not, if they were running a full tilt, the losses would be less in terms of a whole segment. So I don't want to make it seem like they're just gangbusters and they're going great. But they are accretive to earnings. I'm sorry, what was the other thing you mentioned?
Accretive.
Additive.
Same thing. That's what they're saying about 21st Century Fox. It's been accretive, but they're going to stop talking about it.
Okay, I saw that word on the live blog, and I figured it was a typo. This is a completely new word. 49 years old. I've never heard this word before. I think that was my only thing. I don't think I had anything else.
Okay. So, yeah, it's if you want more on non-business fun stuff, Jeremiah will be back in about an hour, 2 hours and 15 minutes for his Theme Park History 101 class. I believe he's doing the studio backlot tour at Universal.
Universal, yeah.
Tramp tour, yeah.
Wave edition. since YouTube was down last night.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not down right now. We don't everyone know.
Well, based on the views, we're doing okay. So yeah, we'll see everybody back here on December 10th. The whole
times before that
will be around. What's that?
And many times before that, but especially December 10th.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like Thanksgiving, all I'm going to be thinking about is what's happening. I really do hate Investor Day.
You realize that it's still 2 weeks beforehand, right? Yeah.
Well,
Thanksgiving versus.
Well, because for when you get excited about Disney news, and there's not going to be much Disney news until December 10th because they're going to want to do their song and dance, particularly on the media side. Parks is not that exciting right now anyway. So it's like, they're not announcing 8 new series for Disney Plus right now because they're going to keep that for December 10th. Just like earnings day was kind of boring because December 10th.
Nobody needs to buy Benji a Christmas gift this year. He's good on December 10th.
And December 10th, that's my Christmas. I might have to call in on December 11th just because it's Boxing Day. I'll just wait.
We could have 8 days of Investor Day.
Yeah. So, in any case, thanks so much for joining us. And we hope everyone stays happy, healthy, and we get back to business and get this nation back on track. So, thank you so much and have a great day.